So what I want to take a look at today is a brief introduction to who we are. There's a few new people in the room, not so many as times in the past. So for those who are already members, you're going to see the same thing that you've seen before. I apologize for that, but repetition's not a bad thing. For the new people, we'll give you an idea of what the OMAC packaging work group really is and what we're all about. After that, I'm going to talk about the survey that we did over the last year and some of the results that we've seen from a high level. I won't get into any of the real details of that survey. We're still analyzing it, but I'll give you some high-level statistics that we've seen. And then lastly, I'm going to give you a review of what we've done for the last year and where we're headed for the coming year in terms of our activities within the packaging work group. So to start with the OMAC packaging work group and who we are, OMAC is the Organization for Machine Automation and Control. And within it, there's two different work groups. There's the packaging work group and the machine tool work group. Machine tool work group happens to be meeting in the room next to us, going over basically the same thing we're doing at their level of committee support. And for us, we have a very strong vision and mission that we've put together in the last year to give us a direction of where it is that we want to go with the packaging work group, why we exist, where we're going, what we want to deliver to the industry. So our vision is to be able to maximize business value. It's what it really comes down to. We want to do that through implementing standards that increase flexibility, that reduce total cost of ownership, improve safety, etc. So the vision is really to be able to maximize the business value of packaging. The mission that's going to help us accomplish that is we want to be the guidepost in the industry for these standards. We want, when somebody thinks about doing a packaging machine, we want them to automatically turn to us and say, that's how we want to do it. I liken it a little bit to where batch control was in the past. If you go back 25 years ago and you say, I need a batch system, you get 100 different people raising their hands saying, I can do batch. And I do it this way, and it's different from everybody else because, well, S88 came around. We came up with a standardized way to do batch. There was some resistance, no doubt. But nowadays, if you say, I want a batch system, but I don't want S88, people look at you crazy and say, what are you smoking? That's how you do batch. Well, that's what we want packaging to be in the future, is to be able to say, when somebody says, I want a packing machine, but I don't want PackML, the machine builder looks at him and says, you're nuts. That's how you do packaging. So that's where we want to get to. That's what we mean by being the guidepost. And I think we're on the path to get there, following the same struggles and the same path that S88 had for batch control, but we're going to achieve. So we have some clear goals that drive the activities to help us get to that point of being the guidepost, the standard for the packaging industry. We support end users and machine builders mostly, though also we're working a lot with system integrators as well as the technology providers to be able to have more choice, to have flexibility. We want the day to be gone where, as an end user, we say, you must use this technology platform. Instead, we want to say, you need to use this specification that's an industry standard. And machine builder, use the technology platform that's going to do what you need to do on your machine because you know your machine. We don't. We're the end user. We know what we want it to do, but we don't know how to design it. Otherwise, we do it ourselves. So why should we specify what technology platform you have to use? Instead, we should be specifying the methodology, a standard approach to doing it so that the different platforms can work together across my packaging line. So that's one of the goals that we have within the packaging work group. In line with that, that should increase the manufacturing competitiveness. Being able to get best-in-class machines, being able to focus on integrating the lines to improve the OEE of the line rather than integrators working on bits and bytes within machines to try and make them talk. We want them to deliver to us better tools, better ways of doing system integration that make our lines operate better. That's the goal. With that, then, we need to do three things. We need to follow an international standard. If we were doing this and it's different from country to country or from company to company, it falls apart. It needs to be a standard. And the standard needs to be able to allow us to do integration horizontally, machine to machine across the line, so that if I have a Siemens machine and a Rockwell machine and an Omron machine, they can talk to each other. I don't have to have one single platform across my line in order to do integration. I also, though, need to get vertical integration. I need to be able to get information out of the packaging line up into my MES systems that can then talk to my ERPs, my SAPs of the world, so that I can get production orders, I can report back consumption and production and all these sorts of things. That for manufacturing, we have to have this information in order to make sure that we're delivering to our consumers what they want. So that's what it really comes down to, is being able to deliver to the consumer, which all of us are, the things that the consumer wants in the most effective and efficient way. And we believe that we can do that, we can enhance that with packaging operations. And then the last piece of the objectives is to make sure that we're doing that while improving the safety of the operator. We need to make sure that people go home at night with all their body parts. So whatever we do, we need to make sure that it fully complies with all of the safety regulations, with all of the ergonomic regulations, all the things that make it life better for us and for our employees. We have two different arms within our strategy that are going to help us accomplish these goals. The first arm is the technical arm. That's what you heard most of this morning, was the people who deliver the technical details of the specification. So what is PackML? The second arm is the marketing arm. They talk about why. Why do you want to use PackML? So that's what you heard from Tom Doney, some of the stuff that's going on there. Within these two different branches or arms of the strategy, we have different committees, and these are the people that are presenting to you today. On the technical side, we have 5 active committees. We have the PackML committee that you heard from Jeff Russell this morning. We have the PackSpec that you just heard from Carl, PackSoft from Ilko, PackConnect, which you didn't hear from this morning, that's all about the data transfer between machines. Do we use, just to throw out some names, do we use Ethernet IP? Do we use Profinet? Do we use OPC UA? This is the kind of thing that they're looking at. And then the Pack Safety that you heard from Uwe on how do we ensure safety within the packaging operations from machine to machine and integrate those safety systems at some level so that when a machine goes down, for a safety reason, we don't have to shut everything else down and lose all of our sealer bar temperatures, our homing on our devices, etc. So that's what the technical committee is all about. Now, there was one, Packability, that was all about sustainability, etc. We started that about 2 years ago and had no volunteers, so it's gone inactive. Now, if the industry is ready to start discussing that again, we can bring that back in to the technical committee to figure out how we work with sustainability within the packaging environment from a specification standpoint on automation. On the marketing side, you heard from Tom Doney, who runs the Pack Advantage Committee. He has 2 subcommittees under him, the Pack Adopt, which is targeting OEMs, and Pack Syst, which is led by Kirk Weiss, who's here, that's targeting system integrators. Together they work to develop what is the business reason for doing this. If this is just a technical thing, nobody's going to buy it. There has to be a value to it. There has to be a reason. Why should a businessman, an owner of a company, why should he want to put the effort into PackML? It costs. We know that. There is a cost, especially up front. Long term, it should reduce total cost of ownership. But up front, there's a cost to convert a machine to PackML. So why should he do it? What's the value that he gets? That's what that committee and its 2 subcommittees are really looking at. And then the last one is PackLearn. And PackLearn is dealing with universities, with professional training organizations like PMMI's training, to try and figure out how we teach this information, how we get this information into people's hands through training seminars, through coursework in university or technical colleges, etc. So again, it's a marketing-driven sort of thing. How do we get the education piece put in place? And we're doing this all because we see that there are real values. So Tom talked about some of these values. I want to just give you a quick rundown on where I see the value for each of these different categories of people that are involved in the PackML effort. So first off, from an end user standpoint, being able to use an international standard means that I have some consistency in the data. Consistency in the data brings me a lot of value. It means I can integrate things horizontally, I can get things up into my MES, I can teach my operators how to deal with a machine interface, and then I can take them to another machine and they can still deal with the interface. They can navigate. They can figure out, okay, the recipe section is going to be press the home button, then press this button, then that button. And you know what? I go to the next machine and I need recipes, press the home button, this button, that button. It's the same look and feel. It's the same way to get to information. That's all comes from standardization. That allows us also then to focus on best-in-class machines. Rather than trying to define all of those pieces, if we can simply reference a standard, we can now focus on what makes that machine better than this machine, rather than how does the operator figure out where he's going in the machine, or how do I integrate this machine horizontally or vertically. And in the end, that then should reduce our total cost of ownership because we get better machines that operate exactly like we need them to solve the functions that we need resolved. But if it was just the end users that got a benefit, most of the rest of this room wouldn't be here. So let's take a look then at what the machine builders get. Machine builders get some very specific and very valuable benefits out of using PackML. First one is it allows them to choose the platform. Like I said at the beginning, what I want to get away from is end users having to say, you must use this technology platform. Let the machine builder choose. The machine builder knows what his machine has to do. He's the guy designing it. He's the guy who should be able to say, I need this PLC, not that one, for reason ABC. That makes their machine a better machine. It also makes it easier for them to support that machine after they've sold it to us. So for example, if I at Nestle say you must use, let's just pick a name, you must use a Koyo PLC. Not that that's what we choose, but that's what you got to use. OEM says, I've never even heard of that. We don't ever use that. But you pay for it, we'll do it. 6 months later, they come in, we say, we have a problem. They say, oh, well, the guy who did that programming, he quit because we never did another one. And nobody knows how to deal with it. I would much rather say, look, this is a caser. I get no real value out of a caser. I have to put my product in a case, but that doesn't bring me, as an end user, any money. So why should my caser be different than Procter & Gamble's caser, or Unilever's caser, or anybody else's? We should just get a caser, and it should be the best in class. And when I call and say I need help with it, they say, oh yeah, that's model ABC. It's the same one that we sold last week to Unilever. Here's the problem. We can get online. We can help you solve the problem just like that. Rather than scratching their heads and saying, ooh, what did we do there? Because that was different from everybody else's caser that we've ever done. The last benefit that it brings then to the machine builders, it allows them to protect their IP. Right now, when we do a system, we hire a system integrator. And we say, you go get into the guts of that PLC on that machine and figure out exactly how it works, because you got to make it work with the machine next to it. Doing that, the machine builder necessarily gives his IP to the system integrator. If we're using pack tags and a PackML state model and PackML modes, I don't need that anymore to do integration. I don't have to get into the machine. I already know what state the machine's in. I know what information needs to be connected to the machine next to it using the pack tags, and I know what mode it's in. So from now, I can let the machine builder block that code so that the system integrator doesn't need to get into it. He protects his IP. And the system integrator can still do his job, and he can do it well. So that brings us to the next category, the system integrators. What do they get out of it then? And if we're now saying that system integration became easy, why do we need them? Well, we still need them. This is not about getting rid of system integrators. It's about making them more effective. System integrators, I was one at one point, don't make any money on bits and bytes. They don't make money figuring out how to make that machine talk to that one. They lose money on that because they never predict it correctly. You can never figure out exactly how long it's going to take to get into that code and figure out how do I make these machines talk. The real value comes in what's the added value that they can provide to my business. What reporting can they do? What links into MES systems? What diagnostic tools can they provide that make the operations of the equipment better? So what we want to see is that the system integrators change the focus from bits and bytes to value add. And they can only do that if there's a consistent set of data, a consistent way of doing things from machine to machine. So the value that they pick up is having that consistency of an international standard. Now, the last group is the technology providers who also get benefit out of this. They were actually the first ones to jump on board with PackML. And the reason that they get value is because now it allows them to go and sell their machines, or not their machines, their PLCs, their control equipment, across the board to any OEM. They can focus on, buy my PLC because my PLC is better because it does this. Not, well, I can't go to that OEM because Nestle said that we only use the other guy's PLC, or vice versa. So it opens the global market to them to allow the machine or the technology providers to sell their technology based on its qualifications, its capabilities. So those are the benefits that we see from using PackML as a standard across the industry. It's just a quick splash screen of some of the companies that are within the OMAC membership or that are using the PackML strategy. You can see some fairly big names on that list. This is only a partial list. We're growing rapidly. In the last probably 3 or 4 months, we've picked up probably 20% membership. So it's starting to grow rapidly. We're picking up the momentum that we need. So before I go to the survey, are there any questions on who we are or what we're about, why we're doing this? Okay, so let's take a look then at a survey that we ran over the last year or so to find out from industry where we should be focusing. What are the needs that industry has in terms of packaging? We targeted an audience in basically 3 different categories. We were looking at the end users. We lumped the machine builders and system integrators together mostly, and then the technology providers. And what we were looking at were some very specific needs around packaging integration and what it costs, what you're willing to pay, what value you get, what are the communication requirements that you need to be able to do horizontal and vertical communications with your machine, with other people's machines or with the MES systems. What are the safety needs that you have? Does that safety need to be integrated across the entire line, or should it be held only within a machine? Does it need to be hardwired, or should there be safety communications, etc.? And then the last one is, how do you purchase your packaging machines? What are the requirements that you have to make sure that you get what you want from the machine builder as you do your packaging systems? Now, at the moment, we have the raw results to this. They're on the table here, the center table. There's a bunch of them. That feel free to take one of these that shows the answers to all of the questions. What it does not do, it does not interpret any of those answers at this point. That's the next step that we need to do. We just closed the survey 3 weeks ago, something like this, Darren? It was within the last month. So we haven't had a chance yet to interpret the results. We will do that and then publish those interpreted results on the website. Okay, but for now you can get the raw results as well, will be available on the website. And what I want to do now is just take a look at some of the higher level results that we got as we did this. So based on who we were targeting, you can see that we succeeded quite well. We had a fairly large chunk of end users that looked at it. Technology providers were our biggest providers of information on the survey, but also between the system integrators and the machine builders, we also picked up a good chunk. So it wasn't quite 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, but it was a fairly representative smattering of data here. We also had mostly engineers that were answering the survey, though we did get a lot of management people, which is what we were looking for. So a lot of people that understand what the business values are and can give us some guidance and direction on the why we need to do this, not only the how. We had a good range of participation, Very interestingly here, when we ran a similar survey about 3 years ago, it was somewhere around 80% U.S., North American participation to the survey. This one we had 51% from Europe. And we've made a concerted effort in the last couple of years to move into Europe, and that's been evident now from this survey. What the next step will be is to take that and expand here, this Asia piece, which is a small piece this year, but I would like to see in the next couple of years that participation significantly increase, and if we run a similar survey in another 3 years, that we see a fairly even split between the Asia side, the Americas, and Europe. We also had a fairly good spectrum of company sizes. We had a lot of the very large companies, but we also had a good number of the mid and even small companies that provided us input on the questions that we were requesting. Everybody likes system integrators. Kurt, that should make you feel really good. We know that. Everybody likes their system integrator. At the same time, everybody has a lot of cost for system integration. Now, what's not shown here, but what comes out of the survey, is the fact that everybody's using them, everybody pays a lot, but we're not seeing necessarily the value that we want. Why? Because the system integrators are spending all their time with bits and bytes versus value-added activities. That's not to say that's the only thing they do. There are a lot of value-added activities that they provide today. But that comes back to the point that I had earlier of where we want to go, is we want to make sure that all of this money that is spent on system integration brings back real business value to the end users. If we move on to look at communications, there was a strong need for communications across the line. That came out very clearly in the survey. You can see that we have a large number of people that are in the 10 to 15 integrated machine sort of range on their packaging lines, but also there was a significant portion of people that want to integrate 25 plus. That's a lot of machines to try and integrate on a packaging line. But it shows that there is a definite need for a communication protocol. What's currently being used from an end user's perspective, you can see there's a lot over here on what everyone would expect, the Ethernet IP Profinet side. That's something that everybody knows already inherently. But if we look at the results from the machine builders and the technology providers, we see a little bit of a shift there in those numbers of the different types of communications that are being provided by those people. Most of the OEMs are dealing with Ethernet IP at the moment. Now, I don't know if that's a result of the OEMs that answered it mostly being in North America versus Europe. That's part of the analysis that we still need to do on the interpretation of this data to be able to get a clearer picture of where we really are on the communications. But you can see the technology providers provide just about everything that there is. So it's not a question of not being able to communicate. It's a question of having a standard that everyone can agree on. My gut reaction is that there's going to be one in the next months that overshadows all of these when we're talking about horizontal communications, and that's OPC UA. I really think that's going to come on strong, just like OPC did back 15 years ago. There's also a definite need for integration of safety. If we take a look here at the question of should safety be part of the line integration or should it be standalone, 96% of the people surveyed said safety should be integrated into the line. But if we take a look at how many people are actually doing that, it's only 20%. So there's a large gap there. That's an area that we definitely need to work on, is how do we integrate the safety across the line. A very interesting one is in terms of standardization. If you look at users' requirements for standardization, the places that we got responses were 50% said they need moderate standardization, 45% heavy, and 5% extreme. Nobody said they didn't need any. So everybody's looking for standardization. When we asked the machine builders if they're doing PackML, we had about 60% say that yes, they're already doing PackML solutions. But when we asked them if it's being specified well by the end users, what we ended up with was 80% of those people saying, no, end users don't give us any good specification for what they want. So on the one hand, we're telling them as end users, we need standardization. Machine builders are starting to use it, but we're not telling them how to do it. So that's the whole goal of what Carl's doing in his group with the Pack Spec, is trying to be able to bridge that gap and bring some standardization that's easy to implement from a specification point of view for purchasing. So that gives you a rough idea of what the survey results look like. Again, we will analyze those much more deeply and provide some directions coming out of that will help guide where the packaging work group goes over the next year, couple of years. But the raw results are available for anyone who wants to do their own analysis on that and take a look. Briefly looking at some of the activities that we've done, we have been getting a lot of press and a lot of involvement over the last year. We participated strongly to Pack Expo. We participated in India at Pack Plus in December. Interestingly enough, I did that presentation in India. I was invited to go there and do that. They had another packaging conference just last week, and there was a system integrator that was at my presentation at Pack Plus who liked enough what he saw that they developed a similar system and put it on display 6 weeks later at the other packaging show. And the booth actually looked better than ours at Pack Expo. So it's moving. They're ripe for standardization over there. China will be the same way. So this is an area that we need to expand into. We will also be participating this year to Packology in Europe. In June, that'll be the first European show that we will have a machine at, and that we will be showing this concept of PackML. We also have a lot of participation in these sorts of forums like ARC Forum. We've presented to various different user groups like CSAM, PMMI, VDMA, all of the different umbrella organizations across the US and Europe. We participate every year to the Automation Conference. We'll be doing a web presentation this next week through Invensys on their plant management experience webinar series. And also I just got confirmation this week that I'll be presenting at the Automation Conference in Australia. They invited us to come speak there. So we're making an impact, gentlemen. It's moving. It's going international. It's going global. We just need to keep the momentum going, and like I said at the beginning, we really will change the way that the industry sees packaging automation for the better. We delivered this year the first fully working prototype of PackML across multiple vendor platforms. So we have a system here that's got 4 different automation suppliers' technology platforms. It's got Rockwell, Siemens, Schneider, and B&R, and they're using they're managing small Festo tabletop type equipment, but there's no line integration PLC here. They're all communicating via pack tags, the state model, the modes, across an Ethernet backplane. It's actually using the Weinsteffen protocol in this one because that was a vendor neutral protocol that we could use. And then using Wonderware SCADA system using OPC sitting on top of that. That system was unveiled at Pack Expo in October in Chicago. It was a tremendous success. As a matter of fact, we've got a short video. You want to show the short one? Okay, well, there's sound. So I'll talk you through it. So what it is you got a robot here that's taking, let's start at the other end. I know it's showing the robot, but on the right-hand side, you see 3 stacking units. Those stacking units have pucks. The pucks have RFID chips on them that tell you what color the puck is. The pucks are ejected out of that stacking unit. They go around to the next machine. That machine actually happens to be controlled by Schneider. The next machine is controlled by Siemens, which has an RFID reader that reads the tag to figure out what color the puck is. If it's a black puck, it turns it over, so it's upside down. If it's white or red, it lets it pass on through. Then goes to the next machine, which is run by a Rockwell PLC that does drilling and ejecting. If it's a white puck, it drills a hole. If it's red or black, it lets it pass. Now, the only place that the Rockwell can get that color information is directly from Siemens. They're the only ones who know the color because they read the RFID tag. So this shows very clearly that we're using PackML and pack tags to pass real data. It's not just bits on and off, but it's actual data going from machine to machine. The robot then, which is controlled by a B&R PLC, picks up the pucks off of the eject station. If it's a black puck, it turns it back over so that it's right side up again. So again, they're getting that information directly off the network from where the color information was read at Siemens. And then they place that onto a pallet. When the pallet's full, they put it back in the stacking unit and the whole thing starts over again. Speed is controlled from the Schneider system. Again, they're the only place that the speed is controlled, so they have to transmit what the speed is to each of the other machines so that they can follow in real time. We also have an overview SCADA here that shows the current state of each of the machines. It shows some fault information. It shows things like guard door openings. It does some statistics, some various reports on what the performance of the overall machine is. So all of this is being done using PackML. There's no external system integration system. It's only PackML. And it's communicating across 5 different technology platforms, 4 different PLCs and a Wonderware SCADA platform, simply using pack tags, state model, and the modes. Why don't you go ahead and cut that? So for us, this was a tremendous achievement to be able to show firsthand to people PackML works. Those videos, by the way, are available on the OMAC website, or they will be. For anybody that wants to use them, feel free. They're a good selling tool to show some of the business value as well as the technical value of why we would want to do this.